It's Big Board Sports with Roger Wyland on 104.5 The Team.
NFL draft coming up April 26th. And, of course, Josh Rosen is one of the quarterbacks that will go very high to some team in this draft. And Sam Alipour, ESPN reporter, had the cover story on ESPN, the magazine, on Josh Rosen, and not all on just his talent on the field, but what the mental capacity of this young man is off the field. That could be a problem, or at least a team may think twice before making a final selection. Sam, Roger Wyland, Chris Honorado in Albany. Good morning.
Hey, Roger, Chris. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
it, man. Nice job with the story. What does the background check tell you about Josh Rosen?
The background check? You mean like coming into the interview?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know he's really good on the field, but you hear about leadership and lack of, and maybe just not that great passion for the game. Is some of that coming to the forefront with Josh Rosen?
Yeah, I mean, look, the NFL whisper machine had me bracing to meet an arrogant, know-it-all jerk who doesn't, love the game. And by the way, his teammates don't like him. and I'll tell you, the guy, my reporting doesn't check out with my reporting. And with this interview, I think he does well for himself. I think with this interview, he comes across as curious and not a know-it-all, as a person who doesn't have all the answers, whether we're talking about religion or we're talking about his flaws. He admits to making some boneheaded mistakes, social media related mistakes, as a young man. And, he says to me that, for the first 18 months of my UCLA career, I did not know that I was, quote unquote, Josh Rosen, quarterback of UCLA. I made some mistakes like any, 19-year-old, except, he made them on a national stage. And, boy, am I happy that they didn't have cell phone cameras when I was in college, right? I mean, I can't imagine the mistakes I made if that was put out. But, he's still growing, he's still learning, and he doesn't have all the answers.
One thing Sam has found out, that all those reports that are out there didn't really check out when Sam did the interview with Josh Rosen. Do you have any idea, Sam, where he may end up, in your opinion?
I don't know. The problem, the real interesting scenario here with Josh is he could go anywhere, man. His draft stock is so volatile right now, which is what made it so interesting that he signed on for this interview. Here's a guy who gets himself into trouble when there's a microphone put in front of him, and now we're having a 1-hour conversation. I think he did well for himself in sort of owning up to his mistakes and dismantling the incorrect character flaws as he sees them. But I don't know that it's enough for some teams, because we're talking about the analysis of the unquantifiable. We're talking about things that don't have a numeric value here. There's no stats for jerk-ish. So, I think there's teams. I think, and this is an important point, I think he signed on to do this interview in part so teams can know exactly who they're getting. And that teams that are okay with growing with him, with taking some lumps when he inevitably says something that rubs the fan base or the front office the wrong way, he wants that team to take him. I don't know that team is the Browns. Is it a New York team? Possibly. I don't know that he falls to the Bills, but, the Bills, Buffalo is a little more conservative than some of these other places. Are they going to take a chance with a guy who's clearly a liberal and a socially conscious athlete activist? That's who he wants to be. That's who he will be. And each team has to sort of take stock and figure out, is this the guy they want to roll the dice on? Because, as you said right before, right after my phone cut out, it's a big risk. These high picks are a big risk. I think he's worth the risk. Each team has to make that decision for themselves.
Sam, before we lost you, I was talking about I like the rawness of this Q&A format that you had in the piece, instead of it just being a long form piece that you wrote with some quotes intertwined. And his answer, and I'm not going to give it all away here. Go read the piece. It's online, and you can go pick it up, ESPN the Mag on newsstands. But how he's learning to compromise between his politically split parents, I thought was really interesting. But the one thing that jumped out at me, and I'm hoping you can elaborate on this for us, is he recognizes his, quote, radioactivity, but sees it as a positive somehow. Why?
Yeah, I think he feels, and I think many on the outside would agree with him, that it's a potentially dangerous material that we're dealing with. If it is not focused, if it is not coached properly, and that's an important note here. If it's not coached properly, it could go off the rails. Now, I think what he would need is a coach who's a partner and who's willing to explain the whys, because Josh is going to ask those questions. Why are we calling this play? Well, coaches can feel threatened by that. There are some that are strong enough and willing enough to sort of have a partner in the process, and I think Josh wants to be that. If he doesn't know the why, he says he can't give it to you. He's a people pleaser, though. If you explain the why, he says, I'll go out there and execute it. So, I think he chose an interesting word, radioactive. I don't know that he's radioactive, but again, there's some risk involved if the infrastructure isn't there, if the intention isn't there from a team to have a partner in leadership. And make no mistake, this guy can lead. I mean, they call him cocky or arrogant, or that's who you want in your quarterback. I don't know what you want out of a quarterback. I mean, I'm a Raider fan. I bleed silver and black. Derek Carr is a gentleman off the field. He is a badass on the field. He's very, very confident. He's a leader of men, and that's the guy I want in my huddle, and that's who Josh is.
Sam, the other thing that also struck me while reading Josh Rosen's answers to your questions, I thought to myself, is part of the NFL blowback here that GMs and coaches want to be the smartest guys in the rooms? Is there an intimidation factor that Josh Rosen may end up being the smartest guy in the organization? And does that push teams away from a player like him?
Yeah, I think there are GMs and coaches who would feel threatened by his intelligence. He is a very good student. He gets great grades. He kicked butt in high school, and he would have graduated early, though he's just not early enough by the time he left school. That can be threatening to some people. I don't know that every team, I can't paint every front office with the same brush. There's some coaches out there who welcome that, who, I think Bill Belichick might be one of them. I mean, Tom Brady is very, very smart, and he challenges his coaches. He challenges his offensive coordinators. That's who Rosen is. Clearly, it's not a problem with Brady. It's not a problem with Aaron Rodgers, who's been compared favorably now to Josh. There will be a team that can handle it. There will be several teams who can. I just don't know who at the top of the order wants to step up.
We'll find out sooner than later. Draft on April the 26th. Sam Alipour, ESPN reporter. Great job with that story as the cover on ESPN, the magazine. And we appreciate you sharing it with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team in Albany.
Thank you, fellas.